New this morning, a proposed Illinois bill looks to alleviate staffing issues for police and sheriff's offices.
However, it does draw some questions from the Adams County Sheriff. WGEM's Ryan Hill is live for us in Quincy this morning with more on the measure. Ryan, good morning.
Good morning. Now, the proposed bill would allow non-citizens who are eligible to work in the United States under federal law to apply to be a police officer or a sheriff's deputy. Now, the Adams County Sheriff says while they remain fully staffed for deputies and for court, they could use more corrections officers. He says if the bill passed, they would still have to go through the same procedures as everyone else who wants to become a deputy.
The main thing I would be concerned with is being able to conduct a proper background investigation on them to where we could check where they came from, their criminal history in that particular area. If that could be done and be done correctly, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
He says it would be a good recruiting tool for departments and help them with any language barriers they face in the community. The sheriff says he does have some concerns about the proposed legislation. We'll hear more about those concerns in the next half hour. Live in Quincy, Ryan Hill, WGEM News.
Thank you, Ryan. That bill has passed the legislature. It now awaits Governor J.B. Pritzker's signature.
Those at a